Hello my brothers and sisters of the Order, welcome back to the Order. I'm Celtic Templar, and welcome back to another Q&A video, which has highly been requested by y'all. Now, I want to start this off by saying the fact we will be starting off with the first type of comment that was put down, and unfortunately we had to start off with an unanswered question that was asked of me from the last video. Sadly, I wasn't able to get to it because apparently it didn't show on our area and for some reason. I don't know why, it's weird. So yeah, I'll happily answer his question here. And in such, I will then go up from each one of y'all that it was asked. Now, majority of y'all have actually asked me multiple things, such as majority either related to October or that is, well, Civil War, which apparently. So yeah. But yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, HOA actually asks, am I pagan? Yes and no to that. One to a major fact, I am Norse Celtic Catholic. Now, maybe you might say, Templar, I never heard of this. What is this? Well, it's technically something of my own choosing, which people would automatically call me a pagan Christian. Which this is the weird dialect that some people just automatically name us, because one, to the way we are. Now, I was never originally a Norse Celtic Catholic. I was originally a Roman Catholic. However, I somewhat faded from the Roman Catholic faith and more into the ancient Celtic and Norse faith, but still with a mix of my Catholic faith. But yes, to the major form though, I kind of don't actually view myself as just Catholic. I also just view myself as Christian, so Norse pagan, a Norse Celtic Christian. However, Norse Celtic Catholic kind of has a little better ring to it, if you ask me. But many of you might ask, Templar, what is this weird faith? Is it pagan? Is it Christian? Sort of both, but mostly Christian. So yeah. Now, people would automatically say, well, what do you believe in this form? Well, to the major form, I actually believe in the old ways. I believe in the ancient idealism of Valhalla, Helheim, or in the worst case scenario, the Celtic underworld, which is probably the worst aspect of eternity of pain. In fact, I've actually explained this in one of my videos on the Celtic underworld or the Celtic hell, which I highly recommend seeing, because one, I would never want to go there for one major reason, pretty much to the major fact, you suffer not only externally, internally, but also spiritually. Your body is dying, your spirit is dying. It is this horrifying. Your bones feel like glass, your skin feels like ice, your entire thirst and hunger ever increases. For example, you can't drink the water otherwise, because literally it's like, what's a good example? I guess I could go with, like, from that Harry Potter scene from where Harry keeps giving Dumbledore the water or whatever, that tainted water or whatever. But apparently it's, but I can't exactly explain it. It's kind of weird because, one, to the major fact, I don't know if y'all ever saw that, but it's like when Harry starts putting the water in and the cup won't take out the water, that's kind of what the Celtic underworld was like. I explain it more in my own video on the Celtic hell, which I view that as the worst place to go compared to the Christian hell, because one, it feels like it's going to destroy me a lot more, and to the worst form, it's an icy cold wasteland. It is a shadow realm, a devastating place that no person should ever be in. So it's kind of scary. And the worst part is, you can't see anything in front of you. It's just pitch black. The only thing you could probably see is a weird fog mist or something like that, which is the most horrifying thing. But yeah. Now, I do believe that there is a Helheim and such, but I don't think that's kind of the same way. For example, when it comes to my belief on this, I believe that Loki is actually another name for Lucifer. In which I call Loki Lucifer, and such sometimes, or I call Lucifer Loki a lot, and such to the major form. Now, pretty much though, I do view myself to going to Valhalla one of these days. Now, people will automatically say, Templar, why do you think you're going to go to Valhalla? You're not going to die in battle, are you? You never know in this economy nowadays. But to the major form also, I actually swear my sword to the gods, or to ancient God himself. So, yeah, I believe to myself that I will go to Valhalla in order to serve in the afterlife as a soldier of God. Now, pretty much to my major form, Odin, Thor, Frey, Morrigan, Lu, and all those gods, I don't view them as gods, but I do view them as lieutenants underneath God himself. And the fact is that there are a different variation of, names compared to that of Michael or Gabriel, or as well as many other type of names that are out there. So pretty much, yeah, I do believe that Gabriel was had another name in Norse or Celtic mythology. And so, yeah, there are different variations of it. So, yeah. But to the major form, I do believe that in certain reincarnation as well. Because one, in my belief system of that of the ancient Celtic mythology, because one, to the major form, birthmarks are actually stated to be a symbol that you're born again. Especially if you, die in battle. And I actually have more than one birthmark, such as on my chest, my head, and as well my arm. I don't know if y'all see that here, but yeah, those are birthmarks. However, the birthmarks that are on my body are somewhat now covered by old scars because of crossbow wounds. Yeah, never go hunting with crazy cousins. But yeah. But what I'm trying to get is, I probably died in major battle. Now that's my belief, that I might have died on the battlefield in some past life, and the Lord ended up reincarnating me into this form. At least that's my best thought to it. But yes, I do believe in ancient Celtic and Norse mythology, because one, there is a good explanation to it. Now, do I believe in Ragnarok? Correct, yes I do. However, I still believe it's a different variation compared to the fact of Armageddon. For example, there are different variations of Armageddon in Christianity and as well Ragnarok, which are somewhat the same. And the fact is, I still would actually call Armageddon Ragnarok, so yeah. People would automatically say Templar. Those are two different, you can't call them the same thing. You'd be surprised of how many times they were called the same thing back in the medieval period. But yeah, I always carry these pendants on me because of my faith. Sometimes I even wear these on me that are carrying Norse symbols. I would always like to carry my Norse Celtic torque around my neck like I used to. Problem is, that thing kind of bites into the skin after a while, so I kind of stopped doing that. As well, I do have my big, heavier one, but as I said, that thing is heavy, and it hurts. Every time you walk around, it actually hits my collarbone. So, yeah, I have to worry about hating myself with that. But, yeah, I actually have different symbols for pretty much a lot of things. Such as, one of my favorites is, because let's see, my first communion cross would be this one right here. Then there would be my Norse pendant of Thor's hammer, or as some people actually named this as Tyr's hammer. Then I have a Celtic cross that was my mother's, which is this old little small one. And then I had a newer Celtic cross that was this one. So I have, let's see, well, the Virgin Mother herself. And as well, I also have several other symbols such as St. Michael's medallion. That was also the same symbol that none other than, what was his infamous name? A infamous Green Beret that fought on the battlefield of Vietnam. Which Roy Benavides himself, who actually wore a St. Andrew's cross, or in this case, a St. Michael's medallion. So yeah, I wear the St. Michael's medallion. I also used to have a St. Andrew's cross symbol. I don't know what happened to it. I am still looking for that damn thing, so yeah. But yeah, I even have two of these Nordic symbols of Christianity, such as the upside-down cross, which is a historical type of cross symbol for resurrection of Jesus Christ. In other words, if I die with this symbol on me, I go to serve God in the afterlife. Or, one of my other favorites, is the Nordic Christian symbol, which this one is probably my favorite out of them all. I don't know why. That just looks cool as hell. Because one, I would love to see jewelry stores sell these crosses. Because that looks cool. But yeah, I always use these symbols. So, am I Celtic or Norse? Well, how did I get to this? Well, it would actually be because of my father and my mother. My father was Lutheran, my mother was Catholic. Yeah, people would automatically think that there is no way that would ever work. You'd be surprised. And the fact is, my life was, this is the same as that Irish pub song, It's the Greatest Mix-Up. If any of y'all are ever infamous about this song, I will try to put it down in the link below. Because one, it is a very good song. It's a very good toast humper and all that. Oh, it is the greatest mix-up that ye have ever seen. My father, he was orange, and me mother, she was green. Yeah, I get that one a lot. So, yeah. But to the major form, because literally, it's funny as hell, because one, the song actually is just like my life. Because one, my mother was Catholic and born in the South. My father was Lutheran and born in the North. And no, I'm not talking Ireland, I'm talking the United States. My mother was born in Texas, my father was born in Iowa. And which I thank the Lord Almighty that my mother convinced my father to keep ourselves here in Texas. Because one, us Texans cannot handle the cold. God, we can handle heat just fine. When it comes to cold, keep us the hell away from it. So, yeah. But to the major form, I do have to put this out here. There are multiple ways this actually changed over time. For example, my father was deeply into Norse mythology. However, he got into Celtic mythology because my mother, because one, my ancestral lineage from her are Celts from Wales, Ireland, and Scotland. And in such, because one, she was a redhead. So yeah, you don't piss off redheads, I know that much, and my dad actually was scared of her sometimes. But that probably left for another time. But to this major form, also, my mother, she was deeply Catholic, but she had a lot of love for the ancient Celtic cultures, or ancient Celtic mythology. And actually, she did scare me a couple of times when I was very young. I'm not kidding, she actually scared me by telling me of the story of the Click-Nuckelavee, or the, especially when we go to the sea, she would actually tell me not to sleep by the seaside, otherwise the Nuckelavee would get to you. Which that's probably the most scariest thing that ever scared me in my entire life! Literally, I would never go to the sea at night for 10 long years because of that! Yeah, she scared the crap out of me sometimes. But yeah. But to the major form, my father, though, he got deep into Norse mythology, mainly through the Beowulf sagas. He was a fan of that, and in fact, he read it, and as well, he later started to read more into the J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, which is how I got into it, because of him. And as well, yes, he's a big fan of he was a big fan of the Peter Jackson films, though I think he only saw 1 and 2, from what I'm correct, before he passed away, so yeah. But the major form is also, when he was buried, he actually was buried, like they actually spoke the Viking warrior poem type speech to Valhalla. Lo, there do I see my father. Lo, there do I see my mother, my brothers, and my sisters. You know the whole story. Which he got from the movie The 13th Warrior, which he was a big fan of, especially with Antonio Banderas. However, I think my mother rather preferred just watching Antonio Banderas. She was a huge fan of the guy for multiple films on him. I don't know why, it's funny as hell. She was a huge fan of him, and I don't know how. I think she convinced my father to watch The 13th Warrior, but literally, that is actually really funny as hell. But yes, my father was deep into Norse culture, Norse mythology, because of our ancestry, especially from Sweden. So, yeah, so pretty much of Swedish Vikings. Yeah, think that one through. Swedish Vikings. That means my ancestors might have been ranging guards. But yeah. But to that major form, I am somewhat pagan, but mostly Christian. So in fact to answer that question, I have to say I am a mutt. But in fact, I am what you might say, a believer of the old faith and the new. So pretty much what people would say, obviously Christian, or pagan Christian, as some people call me. Yeah, I like it pretty much to the major form. But no, that does not mean I will listen sometimes to the idiocy of a pope. Because one, I do not believe in the idealism of popes, but I do believe in the almighty power. So people would automatically say, but Templar, doesn't it mean you're not Catholic? You'd be surprised. So yeah, that's the answer to that one. Okay, Famed God asks, a question I have that I forgot to ask in the Q&A video, but I'll ask it here. What is your favorite thing to do on Halloween and why? Ooh, okay, to answer that one, that is kind of somewhat hard to explain. Because one, to the major form, the most favorite thing I loved to do on Halloween was to do the ancient Celtic ceremonies. Now, this was actually once when I went to Scotland especially, and we had the Wickerman Festival. We had to burn the pyre and such. However, we can't do that here in the United States without somebody calling the cops on us and saying, "It's a cult! It's a cult! Run for it!" Literally, I am not kidding. There are some jackasses who immediately start doing that, or as well, they see a Wickerman and they automatically say, "Whoa, Burning Man, dude! Woo!" I'm not kidding. There are jackasses out there that actually ruin the ceremonies. They automatically see a big, giant Wickerman, and they automatically think it's well, Burning Man. It's not Burning Man. It's nothing related. The Wickerman Festival is pretty much one of our most ancient type of cultures, the ancient Celtic type holding. And the fact is, it's one of the most things I loved to do when I was very young, and I kind of still do it. Sadly, I can't do a big, giant Wickerman. What I actually do is pretty much in the backyard. I end up taking, not a grill, but I end up lighting a small fire pit, and I actually do the ancient ceremony, speaking the ancient Celtic tongue. Like you saw in my short video of me praying to the ancient goddess of war herself. Now, this type of prayers are meant to cast out demons and such, or into the major form of welcome the spirits of our ancestors to the land of the living yet again for one whole night. Now, people would automatically say, Templar, isn't that seen in the Day of the Dead festival for Hispanics? Yes, because one, it's actually kind of weird because that actually, Dia de los Muertos, actually was inspired by Celtic culture somehow, and mix of native Mexican type cultures, which is kind of weird to say the least, so it's kind of funny. But to the major form to this, I always celebrate the old Celtic way. I burn sage, I burn certain items. However, one major thing is we do not burn people anymore because one, that's actually illegal. We can't use human sacrifice even though they volunteer for it sometimes. Yeah, because one, I actually went to Scotland once, and there was actually a group of people who, one guy who tried to state that he would be sacrificing himself to the pyre. You are not allowed to do that anymore. Which, yeah, he was a full-on, what was the word I'm looking for? Druid. So, yeah, he was, kind of up there a little. In fact, he actually grew a freaking beard as long down to his knees, which it was just, God, I didn't even know a beard could get that long, but from what I do remember, I think his head was bald because apparently he had grew a freaking beard out, or maybe he shaved his head, I don't know. But majority of the time, their faces, all our faces had to be covered, otherwise we actually run the risk of our ancient ancestors pretty much clinging to us, which is something we shouldn't have. Did I use my skull mask? No, I can't use that. I actually have to use what we call the plain face mask, or in this case, it's originally was just a burlap sack or whatever, but we also used sometimes skulls, such as animal skulls and all that, which was kind of cool. But yeah. Sadly, I can't go to Scotland anymore, because it was a once-in-a-lifetime, and sadly, I would love to go back there again and do that festival again. Now, we can't sacrifice humans, but we do sacrifice whatever we can, such as steak, like meat, for example, like steak, pork, you name it. Or as well, even booze, and such, all of that type of stuff for the ancestral ancestors or gods. We sacrifice it pretty much to the major form in order for the gods to be fully, loved to us and such like that. So yeah, the festival is still somewhat done in Scotland, Ireland, and Wales. Sadly though, as I said, we can't do it here in the United States. Otherwise, people automatically think it's either Burning Man or a cult. But another answer to that is also the fact of scaring the crap out of kids. And the reason why is, come on, I think all of us adults and parents love to scare the crap out of our kids, especially in this time of the year. Because name one person that doesn't like to scare the crap out of their own kid after they misbehave for a full year. It's time to get revenge on them. And you know it. Now, people would probably ask me, though, Templar, do you go to graveyards and also do this ritual? No, I do not go to graveyards because, one, I do not want the dead to come back to life and actually grab me and pull me down into the grave. So, yeah, I'm not going to do the spiritual Celtic thing in a graveyard. Because, one, that's actually taboo amongst the ancient Druid culture. So, no, I'm not doing that. No go, no go. And people who think it's a good idea, don't do it. But that's actually, yeah, thank God did give me a good one to answer there. So, yeah. Okay, another reply from HOA. HOA asks, do you wish the Confederates have won the Civil War? That's kind of a hard to answer question. That's both a yes and slightly a no. For the major form, I would actually love to have seen the Confederates win the American Civil War for the fact the South, or in this case Texas, ends up becoming its own independent country again, which the only reason it fought with the Confederates was because, one, it saw that the United States cheated it, and in such, Texas had no other choice than to join the Confederates. Rather, in other words, it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. See my point? So, they joined the Confederacy. Now, to the major form, though, there is a weirdness to this that I am not kidding, and it's too stupid to make up. When it comes down to it, the idealism of the Confederate cause was to get rid of a corrupt government. And the fact is, the American Civil War actually helped that. So technically, the Confederates lost strategically, but won politically. So it's kind of weird. I hear many people already asking, that's kind of a weird answer to that. You'd be surprised on how much this makes sense. For one, after the American Civil War, America was worried that if they actually further do the same stupidity that they did in the past few decades, they were worried that another civil war would pop up. So, guess what they did? They wanted to avoid it at all costs. While reconstructing the South, they would immediately rebuild it to work together with the North a lot more closely, and in such, make it also richer than it was in the past. Now, people will automatically say, but Templar, wasn't the Confederate cause for the war slavery? No, that is the biggest bull crap lie that any person in the right mind could ever say. There is no proof of this until the 1960s. Meaning, it took 100 years to come up with that lie, and the only reason that lie is around today was because it was told to American children back then during the Civil Rights Movement in order to unify the United States when it was most divided, mainly during the Civil Rights Movement. So in fact, it was the perfect brainwashing tool to trick children in order to believe this stupidity. And the fact is, to the major form, I do actually believe the Confederates did win the war, but not strategically, but actually politically. To the major form, though, I do wish Texas was actually its own nation, though. So to that major form, though, yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much my answer to it. Okay, Famed God asks, what was your favorite Horror October video to do? Oh, that's an easy one. That is actually easy. That would be the Nuckelavee. Come on! That is probably the most horrifying thing of any Celtic culture or anything I could ever see popping out of the freaking ocean. Here's the thing. Would y'all want to actually deal with that? I really wouldn't, because one, that thing is scary as hell. Because one, this is why I love living more inland in Texas. I don't have to be anywhere near the ocean when that thing starts to pop up. So, yeah, y'all at the coast? Good luck dealing with that thing when it takes you underneath the water. Okay. Let's see. Michael Estelas asks, which game was your favorite and why? Oh, I'm assuming he's asking video games. That's a tough one, actually. That's a really tough one. I would have to say no. See, this is a hard one. As long as it's related to history, you know I would play it. But there are a lot of them. And I think my favorite one I ever like playing, especially for right now, in this most period, is what I keep playing, is pretty much World at War. Even though it got some stuff wrong here and there, at least they tried their best on it. However, I do love the original Call of Duty games, especially. But one of my favorites would also be the latest Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which it gets me right into being a Viking warrior during the time of King Alfred the Great. Now, at least now they updated the game enough to make it correct. At least it gives your character correct equipment. Because one, when it first started out, it was bad. There was, Now, it's, oh yeah. But yeah. But when it comes to Call of Duty, there are hundreds of video games that, there are a lot of them I love to play. But, let's see. Because it's Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed games, Medal of Honor, Battlefield 1, hell yes. Let's see, there are so many of them. Because I'm a huge Call of Duty guy, so you can understand why. Fuck. This is hard to answer. Because there are a lot more. I even used to play the original Conflict series games. None of y'all ever played these games? I highly recommend looking them up. These are back when PS2 was around. Yes, I played these on my old PS2. I originally played it on my computer. And this was actually with Conflict Desert Storm, Conflict Desert Storm 2, Back to Baghdad, as well as Conflict Vietnam, and then Conflict World Terror. Which, these were my favorites, damn it. And they were pretty good. But let's see. When it comes to Call of Duty World at War, the original Call of Duty, hell yes. Let's see. Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1, Call of Duty Finest Hour. Let's see. There are so many, I can't answer them all. Shit. Let's see. Call of Duty Final Fronts. As I said, there are so many damn Call of Duties I can't answer them all. Call of Duty 3, yes. Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The original Modern Warfare. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, yes, hell yes. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, slightly here and there. I actually loved it when they redid, like they reanimated them and all that. Because one, it made me more loving them ever more so. So yeah. But let's see. Well, Medal of Honor 3, Modern Warfare 3, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that one as much as the others. But let's see. Shit. But the Modern Warfare, like the Modern Warfare that's supposed to take place before Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, yes, I love that one. That one was perfect. Now, people would ask me, Tabar, are you a fan of Black Ops? No, because one, Black Ops gets a lot of shit wrong! And this is before Vanguard came out. And many people ask, how so did they get stuff wrong? Seriously, have you not seen the M203 grenade launcher on an M16? During the Bay of Pigs invasion? It never was even on there. Or a canister flamethrower of aerosol on an AK-47. That was the funniest thing I ever saw on that. Oh god, that was so stupid. But I'll have to do that in one of my history and gaming videos. But I'll have to do that another time. People ask, what about Cold War? Somewhat here, somewhat there, give or take. I do like it because, one, it does kind of feel a little historical, a little bit more now. But, yeah. But that's the Call of Duty games I like. But as well, there's also Call of Duty World War II, which I sort of like, sort of don't. 50-50. But I'd rather prefer them just redoing Call of Duty 2 Big Red 1. Because, one, it's just the same thing, only a lot longer and a lot more badass. But let's see. On Assassin's Creed games, there's the original Assassin's Creed, hell yes. The Assassin's Creed Ezio Trilogy, I'm not a fan of. I'm literally not a fan of that. I don't know why. I just wasn't a fan. Although the history behind it, yes, I was. The gameplay sucked. Like, literally, I do not have to explain. I don't know if any of y'all have ever played it, but here's the thing. Imagine you playing Ezio de Torre da Firenze, and next thing you know, you're going up a freaking wall, and you do it going to the right, and he just jumps left. I'm not kidding. Every time I did that, I'd like go up and left, and like literally, this is my joystick system. I go up and right, and next thing you know, he just boop this way. It's like I'd be like this. No wonder your fucking family died. You were an idiot. I would actually scream the top of my lungs. I literally am not a fan of the Ezio Trilogy. Although, then there actually came Assassin's Creed 3, which, yes, love that one. The American Revolution, perfect. Then there was Black Flag, which I sort of liked, sort of didn't. It was just too much Sea Voyagers. That I didn't like. It kind of got boring. That's why I rather prefer 3. At least it was a little fun. The only problem is limited amount of outfits. Then there was also the fact of Assassin's Creed Rogue, which perfect, loved it, adored it. Let's see though. People would ask, okay, what about Unity and Syndicate? No, I did not like them, not one bit. It's too stupid. It was just too stupid. I didn't like it at all. It's like literally, it's like, why? Why? Why this? Out of everything. In fact, I actually hear that Unity sucked so bad. It was bad. And apparently Assassin's Creed knew this, especially when they came out with Syndicate. And they finally realized, okay, you know what? Screw this. Let's just go back further in time and fix this. And they came up with Origins, which I love. At least with the cultural design. They kind of got a couple of things wrong here and there, but that's easy to understand for the storyline. Then there also then became Odyssey, which that one I did kind of like. The one thing I hated to the fact of, one, how the warfare was done. Like, literally, you don't see the Greek phalanx. What the hell? Where is the phalanx? But as well, one of my favorites right now is definitely Valhalla. That is actually one of my favorites out there. But my original favorite is always the original Assassin's Creed. Reason being, one, I just loved the Crusader armor. It was historical. That's what I love to see on them. And if only that was a true open world game. I really wish that was a true open world game. Like literally, as soon as I'm finished playing the entire game, I would just love to go back in there and just play the entire thing, just fighting and killing. That's what I loved about it. But yeah, it was so cool. That's why I loved it so much. Medal of Honor, though. Medal of Honor. This was actually one of my favorite video games when I was very growing up. I loved it a lot more than Call of Duty. And that's saying something. Sadly, though, Medal of Honor is not as big right now as it once was, which is a sad statement to say the least. In fact, to this day, I still have the old PS2 games that I wish I played. Yes, I was a fan of them, still I am to this day. that would, in fact, I think my first Medal of Honor game was Medal of Honor Frontline, which this actually, like literally, the opening scene, you're in the same situation as the movie of Saving Private Ryan, Omaha Beach and all that, which I loved. It was perfect. I loved it. It was this beautiful, then you're part of the OSS, which this is what I always found weird about Medal of Honor. It always went to the OSS. I found that weird. Every video game, you're first a soldier, then you're an OSS agent. It made no sense. It was so weird. It was so stupid. I found that weird. It was like in every video game. I can understand that Medal of Honor was trying to show the forgotten side of war, but still, it's like, literally every Medal of Honor game, it was always like that. But yeah, there was Medal of Honor Frontline, Medal of Honor European Assault, which that one was kind of good. Then there was also Pacific Assault, which that was on computer only, sadly. But in fact, I did love that, and it showed the Marine Corps for what it was, which I did love. Then there's also the Medal of Honor Rising Sun, which that one I really did love also. And to the Major Form also, it did show historical accuracy to a regular soldier who then became OSS, which I didn't like. In fact, I would have loved for them to make a second part of that, or as well, to end the game with you finding your brother, probably in the Philippines, where you last saw him. Because one, I wish they could have just kept him as a normal Marine. That would have been awesome. But nope, they just had to make it OSS. Always OSS. Why? I never understood. But then there were also the Medal of Honor Airborne video games, which were about, well, the airborne division, such as the 82nd. There were two versions of them. One on one made for Xbox 360 and one made by I think PS2 and PS3 system, which this was the weirdest divide ever. I don't know why it was weird, but yeah. But a couple of times in the one for the 360, apparently they went a little Wolfenstein-y a little bit with heavy machine gun SS troops, which is just the weirdest thing I ever saw. But yeah, but many people say, oh, the animation was bad. Well, what do you expect? They're old games. However, I really wish they would bring these games back, because one, those were beautiful back then, and they still are to me as badass video games. But let's see. I know there's another Medal of Honor game out there, but I just can't remember its name, sadly. But then there were also the Modern Warfare Medal of Honors, which I loved the most, especially Medal of Honor and then Medal of Honor Warfighter. You're pretty much playing as Navy SEALs, which is pretty much one thing I wanted to be when I was very young. Reason I didn't join in the military is for what the hell's going on right now with the corrupt government. Yeah. But that's for another time. But yeah, those I really did love. And the fact is, they kind of actually showed the very idealism of the American soldiers, none of which are fighting to protect our freedom and anti-terror. So that's kind of what I loved about it. And the fact is, Warfighter was probably one of my favorites out of them all, so yeah. Let's see, then there's also, there was also the weird Delta Force games, which never caught on that much. The only one I played the most was about, Black Hawk Down, I believe it was, which that one was good. That was actually, they were trying to base it mostly on the movie Black Hawk Down, but what can you do? But they did do a very good job at it, and I do love them for that. It was pretty beautiful. But that's actually how I had to say of the video games that I love out of them. And because, one, at least they try their best to make sure it's historically accurate. But yeah, I think that one video game I love the most is always Valhalla or the original Assassin's Creed. Because, one, those are the two I love the most. Reason being, one, the Crusades, one, the Viking culture. So, yeah. However, I would love to see one day the Assassin's Creed try and do something about the American Civil War, because then that would actually make me love it a little more. Oh, come on, wouldn't you actually love to hear the story about John Wilkes Booth being an assassin, or Abe Lincoln being a Templar, or something like that? It's kind of hilarious to think of how that could actually look like, so I would like to see that happen. Okay, Michael Estella also asks, Also, what is your take on the 47 Ronin movie? Accurate or not? That's actually a mix. Because one, it's based on true history of 47 Ronin samurai. However, the story is a lot different. For one, it's more fantasy and less historical accuracy. And the fact is, the story about it is that the 47 Ronin were heroic samurai who actually avenged their daimyo, their master, who in which was spat upon by the said villain. The villain was stated to have actually, enraged or as well even take money from the said daimyo more than often. And the worst part is, the daimyo was actually mistreated, being a lowly class design of, servant. And the worst part is, he ended up drawing his sword on his said opponent pretty much in a forbidden place. A place in which it is forbidden to actually draw your weapon. The Emperor's Palace. And in such, the daimyo ended up committing seppuku, and the worst part about it is his family was now destitute, and in such, the major form also that this criminal actually got away with such asinine stupidity. But the real story about it is that they wanted the villain to look like a supernatural demon whatever thing. No, that's not it. It was just a cowardly fool who in which hid himself and would not even commit seppuku in honor of the samurai way. In fact, he was nothing but a coward. And the worst part of it is that these 47 Ronin were actually the true showing of the true samurai. Ones who would honor the way of the samurai to the very end in order to, show that they were true samurai by upholding the right of their master. And the really messed up thing is also that I have to put out here is that they actually were to commit seppuku, which is the most honorable form. In fact, they were to be executed, but not by the form of criminal, but by their own hands as a form of samurai. And were actually all laid in tomb. In fact, this would later give rise to the idealism of the ideal of a true samurai. So, I love that story a lot. I'll leave a link down below if any of y'all want to learn more about it and such. But, do I think it's accurate? Somewhat yes and somewhat no. It's somewhat in between, because one, I think they just put too much fantasy when they should have just put historical accuracy, because one, the historical story is a lot more badass. Come on! Doesn't anyone think that the more historical the movie is, the more badass it is? Because I do. But yeah. Okay. Trey Fumester has asked, do you have a Confederate flag? If so, can you show us the flag? Alright. Yes, I actually do have a Confederate flag. This flag I have actually flown at my house when I was very young, and I still do. People automatically say, oh, Templar, you're racist! You're racist! Yeah, wait, let's subscribe! Here's the thing. Go ahead. And the major form also, no one cares! In fact, it's kind of like this. It's like telling somebody that they shouldn't wear a cross when they're Christian. Or somebody who is, of the Buddhist faith shouldn't wear a swastika symbol because it's a racist symbol and they're offended. Here's the thing. No one cares anymore about your stupidity. Because once in a major form, just saying it's a racist symbol shows you don't know history. In fact, for major points I had to put out here is, people automatically say, but Templar, the swastika is a racist symbol. Well, it's a racist symbol in Europe and America. However, to Buddhists, it's not. In fact, the swastika has actually been seen throughout thousands of cultures. Not just in Germany, but also in America by Native Americans, as well Celtic and even Jewish cultures. In fact, it's actually stated that the symbol was the original symbol for Judaism. Weirdly enough, though, is it changed over time. And the fact is, even the Romans used the swastika for a different symbol. So, the major point I had to put out here is, instead of saying that it's a Nazi symbol, maybe you should look up your history. The same about the Confederate flag. In fact, the Confederate flag never flew over slavery, as I explained in my videos on it more than once. And so the major fact I have to put out here is the Confederate flag is not a symbol for racism, but for the symbol of those men who fought and died against a tyrannical government. To this major form, I have to explain that majority of people in the United States say it's a racist symbol, but in fact, it's not. In fact, not just, people here in the U.S. say it's not, but as well, people in foreign countries say it's not. In fact, even Adolf Hitler stated that the flag was not even a symbol for white supremacy, even though the Ku Klux Klan said it was. Thing is, though, it's not. To the major form, the Confederate flag was a symbol against tyrannical government. Just like, well, this flag, the Don't Tread on Me, which was the original idea on the war. Problem is, though, majority of the time, the Confederates had to switch to a different battle flag because, one, it got confused with the Union flag. And the fact is, the original belief was that the Union should change their colors, but it's kind of weird to say the least. But yeah, the Confederates didn't want to dishonor the United States, but the fact is, they needed a flag to be used when they were at battle to not get confused for the Union. And the fact is, the majority of the Confederates didn't even use the battle flag. In fact, this is the Confederate Naval flag, the Confederate Union Jack. The Confederate battle flag is this, as I explained in my last Confederate flag video. But to the major form, it's not a racist symbol. It's a symbol of Southern pride. It's a symbol of Southern heritage. It's a symbol of Southerners who fought against a corrupt government. It's not a symbol of slavery. It's not a symbol of racism. In fact, as I said, this is like telling a Christian not to wear a Christian cross around their neck for their beliefs. So here's the thing. You think, that I should put down my flag because you actually say you're offended against my beliefs? Here's the thing. When it comes down to it nowadays, every said human being today is going to become nothing more than a bunch of whiners. And the fact is, majority of Southerners don't care anymore. And the fact is, if you take a look at Confederate statues before the corruption of idiocy nowadays with the idiots tearing them down, here's the thing. You saw many black people posing in front of them, not in hatred, but actually in deep pride for the South. In fact, there's actually many Confederate black citizens today. I'm not kidding. There are many citizens today in the South and North that actually wear Confederate uniforms and actually reenact in Confederate reenactments as historical Confederate soldiers. In fact, there are hundreds of them, or actually hundreds of thousands of Confederate soldiers that fought in the American Civil War long before 1863. Pretty much in 1861 into 1865. So, yeah. Please, y'all, learn your history before you start spouting off bullshit. Though, yeah, Trey Formaster, sorry I kind of went off the topic there, but yeah, I had to go over that because, one, I had already imagined there were a lot of idiots that were already starting to comment down below of how it's a racist symbol when in truth it's not. So, yeah. Okay, Famed God asked this good question, and it is, do you agree with the KF Edgerton had to say about the Confederate flag? Yes, I actually do, because one, now before anyone starts asking, who the hell is this guy? Seriously? You never heard of this guy? This guy is actually a black Confederate reenactor and historian. Because one, he is actually correct about the entirety of the Civil War, and in fact on the Confederate flag. It's not a hate symbol, it's a symbol of the Southern people. It's a symbol of Confederate soldiers. And the thing is, he's kind of right, because one, our belief on the American Civil War and the Confederate flag of today is not exactly original. In fact, it never actually came around during the 1860s. It actually came around 100 years after the war, in the 1960s. People automatically say, so what does this mean? Simple. What happened in the 1960s? That's right, the Civil Rights Movement. And guess which side was holding the Confederate flag then? That's right, the Ku Klux Klan. And the worst part is, the Klan was not exactly the major good guys. The majority of them, especially by after the American Civil War, because here's the difference between the two groups of the Ku Klux Klan. There was the original, and then there was the racist group. The original group were made of militiamen, then which dressed in, well, not the weird robes that we understand, but actually in, well, white covering sheets in order to be viewed as ghosts of the Confederate Army. These men would actually just wear these in order to cover their faces, because one, they were using guerrilla-style warfare in order to defeat the Union. However, after the war, they disbanded. But because of the Union government, they were later reorganized by Southerners in Alabama and Georgia mostly, by former Southerners who came home and they saw their homes destroyed. The Southerners ended up seeing many black soldiers in Union uniforms and blamed them. Which, this was probably the worst thing the Union could do, was actually use black soldiers as scapegoats, which this is actually too stupid to make up. The Union did this without realizing the consequences. And the worst part of it is it later led to major conflict between blacks and whites. And the worst part is, many Southerners were hating the said now free blacks because they blamed them for the march on Atlanta, majorly caused by none other than General Sherman. General Sherman was an encourager of blaming black civilians or former slaves of the Confederacy, like black slaves, and say that they were runaways that were destroying the southern area, which the Confederates took notice of this, and militiamen actually rallied to stop this, later realizing that these men were even armed with firearms. And in fact, it'd be kind of like just like what happened with the Harper Ferry incident known as the John Brown Raid. John Brown was a radicalistic abolitionist. And the worst part of it is, he was kind of like the Malcolm X of the 1800s, which is not a good thing. In fact, he would be, well, a terrorist. In fact, he attacked innocent civilians and as well, even fellow abolitionists that didn't agree with him. So, yeah, I have to say, I agree with the fact on this comment. I have to agree that the Confederate, Edgerton actually says is correct. It's not a racist symbol, it's a symbol of history. So before people start saying, it's a symbol of slavery, learn your history, don't just spout off idiocy. Okay. Pewds asks, have you ever been outside of Texas? Yes, I've actually been outside of Texas more than once. Mostly to visit family or as well to do reenactments. For example, I have gone up to far as Iowa when it comes to visiting family. But for reenactments, mainly for that is Civil War. In fact, I did this to honor my ancestors who fought in various wars during the American history, such as the American Civil War and American Revolution. I've actually taken part in the battles my grandfather took place in during the American Civil War in the 4th Texas Infantry. So from the Battle of First Manassas to the Battle of Gettysburg. Yeah, it was pretty fun. And that was actually when I stopped doing it. In fact, I stopped after Gettysburg because, one, that was the last battle he was at. I found it very fun, and I still like it to this day. Other reenactments I have actually done would also be across the ocean. Pretty much in places like England and France and such, which, though I don't know if they still do this, but they used to do World War I reenactments in Europe, which I did love. Sadly, though, I only did it like once or twice, which is kind of a big disappointment on my end. Because one, I would always be the ladies from hell, or in this case, the Scottish division, or the Germans. Let's see, I also took part in Scotland in the Bannockburn reenactment, which that was fun. I can't remember the year, though, was a thing. I think I was at least 15 or 14 years old. Now people would ask, Templar, you're a little young to do that. Here's the thing. I looked older, and I was taller than most kids my age. People actually mistook me for being an adult. Literally, I looked like I was in my 20s when I was in my teens. And that's funny to say the least. But yeah, I also took part in multiple medieval reenactments, mainly such as, say, ancient Roman and Celtic also, and Viking, the Welsh rebellions. You get my point. Pretty much I took part in a lot of them. And would I do it again? Sadly, I can't do them anymore because of an injury to my cranial skull. However, I guess that will be for another Q&A video if any of y'all ask. But, yeah. So the major point, I took a lot of injuries when I was young, and they started to come back to haunt me in many forms. But, yes, I have actually been outside of Texas. Pretty much, mostly in the areas pretty much of the Deep South, or as in the Southern Territory, or as well going up towards Iowa, pretty much by driving, or as well across the ocean towards, well, toward the said Europe. But yeah, I've actually done that. And as well, I have visited St. Peter's Cathedral, or Basilica, once in Roma. Though I don't think I would ever do that again, because one, I couldn't step out 1 second in the area without nearly getting hit by somebody. Which literally, I couldn't actually be in Rome without nearly getting hit by a moped, like, one of those weird little cars, or a Vespa, or a moped. Which, literally, I didn't want to get hit, so yeah, that's kind of weird of how hilarious that place is, so. People would ask, did I ever drive in London? No, I am not. I never did, and I probably never will, because one, I'm not. Because one, I'm from the United States, and Americans don't drive on the far left, on the left lane, and such. So it's kind of weird to do with it, let's say the least. So yeah. Okay, Famed God asks, if the Civil War were to happen again, who would you want to win? The North or the South? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if a second Civil War were to happen again, it wouldn't be between North and South. It would actually be between Republican and Democrat. Or, in this case, to the major form, it's pretty much how we can end up viewing it, pretty much by the political poll from 2016. People may ask, what do you mean 2016? Why not 2020? Simple, 2020 votes were actually found in the garbage cans and burned. Majority of votes were found destroyed and such, and it's even stated of major voting fraud. So the fact is, I can't rely on the 2020 vote. I had to rely on the 2016 vote. So, let's take a look here real quick. And where is Texas? And what is its mayor? Oh, fully red. So I would probably siding with the Republicans to win the war. And they probably would, knowing the fact that majority of blue states don't own firearms and don't even know how to use a gun. And pretty much people would say, well, Templar, what if the government sends the troops? Yeah, there's this thing called guerrilla warfare. And in fact, it's actually stated by none other than General Grant himself that he feared the Confederates using guerrilla warfare to defeat their army. And the fact is, the Republican, or us country folk, aren't going to be stupid enough to face off against a massive column of tanks. We're going to use guerrilla-style warfare to defeat our opponents. Kind of like what somewhat is going on in Ukraine right now. The worst part of it is, it will not end well for the governmental forces. So, I highly say, Republicans, let's win this war. Okay, and finally, comment from Hajav is, what got you interested in history? Okay, what got me interested in history is the fact my father. My father was deeply into history. I am not kidding. He actually would look, there were, see these books here? Majority of them are all my father's. I am not kidding. The majority of these books that I own belong to my father. And such, I read hundreds of them. He read many books about history, such as, what caused the this type of culture and such. Rome, he looked up much about World War II, World War I. He looked about majority of Germany and such, and Scottish culture, or as well the American Civil War and all that. And in such, I remember in his desk, like literally his historical desk, unfortunately it's still in storage right now. So yeah, hopefully, yeah, when I get my own place, new place, I'll end up showing y'all what I mean, what the desk looks like. It's one of those older Victorian style roller system types, not the types that you open up, type cabinet style. I mean, you like push it and it like that's make that sound of wood that's moving back. That's the type of design I love the most, actually. But yeah. So that major form, I have to say that my father got me interested because, one, I found thousands of hundreds of notes on the American Civil War, American Revolution and Texas Revolution, and even the Mexican-American War, and I read them still to this day. Sadly, though, I have to keep them in a type of sealed compartment area in order to keep them safe. But yeah, what much I learned about it from history was actually because of him. And before anyone starts saying, oh, he was a racist or something like that, here's the thing. This guy was from Iowa, damn it. Iowa. Where, in fact, Iowa was nowhere even nearly close to the South. The only part of it being close to the South was Missouri, and that's saying something. And that was only rebelling against a corrupt government when they attacked innocent civilians. So, yeah. He actually looked up a lot of history on, well, everything. And the fact is, it's actually what inspired me to be, well, in love with history. And the fact is, history is something that of which a family shares beyond times in history. In fact, one day I hopefully will end up sharing this with my own kids. So that major form, yes, it was my father that, and as well also slightly my mother, but mostly my father, that got me interested in history. Because one, let's just say my father had a lot of weapons. Like literally, he had a big ass Highland Claymore. Sadly, he was buried with. I would have loved to have that one, actually. But yeah. But that's actually the reason why I got interested in history. Well, y'all, I hope y'all liked that video and all that. And if any of y'all weren't able to get your questions on time, please stay tuned. We will be doing another Q&A video very soon. But yeah, this one was deeply about mostly Civil War or Halloween related, which is hilarious to say the least. But anyways, guys, hopefully you like this, like and subscribe for more, and as well, hopefully see y'all in the next one. We will be having another Q&A video probably in another 2 to 3 months, give or take. But yeah, if any of you are interested, please click that bell button for notifications when it pops up in our community area. In fact, majority of these questions were all in our community area when I asked y'all for this type of information. But any type of form of any questions y'all want answered for next Q&A, make sure to click that bell button as I stated, so that way y'all can stay tuned when the next Q&A video might come up. But yeah, hopefully see y'all in the next one. Like and subscribe. Have a great day, guys.